So we've seen some useful commands for getting around the command prompt in Linux, a few useful commands for files. Let's see just a few more advanced commands. We're going to see how to get help on commands. We'll use the super user do command, and then we'll see some things that we can use to find a file or to do a little bit of networking checkup and other advanced features. So first of all, anytime we want to do something with elevated privileges, something that a super user or a root or administrator would do, we use the super user do or sudo, S-U-D-O, super user do. You'll hear people call it sudo. We'll say sudo, and then we'll give it a command that would impact the system or install software. So if we do a sudo apt get install, let's say Python 3, then that would let us run as an administrative user and install some software using the apt get. So the apt get install Python 3 would go out and find Python 3. I'm not going to do that right now. Sometimes we want to restart services. For example, we might say sudo service network manager restart, and that will restart our networking for us. Anytime you need to do something with elevated privileges, looking inside other user directories, for example, if you're doing a search, you may have to do a sudo to find out where files are located. Well, speaking of finding where files are located, let's cd to the root of the machine, not our root home directory. Cd to the base file system, and now if I do a ls, I can see I'm out at the base of this Kali Linux machine. I've got things like user, sys, temp, lots of the home folders there for our users. So I've cd'd space slash, and that / takes me to the root of the file system. And now I can do a find command. Find -name. Let's find all the users' desktop folders. Well, it turns out we've just installed a basic Kali Linux box here, so there's only one desktop, and it's in my folder root. But let's say we wanted to find all the files named desktop or with desktop in the name at all. We can use the locate command, and we can locate desktop. And you see there are lots of places in a default Kali Linux install that have desktop in the file name. Let's say that we created one, so let's clear the screen and let's create a file called desktop right here. So I mkdir desktop, and then if I ls, I see my new folder desktop is here. So now if I do a locate desktop, you see it doesn't find that base directory desktop. Well, that's because I have to update the DB. The locate is a quick indexed search for files, and the DB, the update DB command, will now let us locate desktop. And notice it has found it now, and that's much faster than doing a find by name, find -name, because it's an indexed search. So that update DB goes through all the directories and finds all the files. Locate is a really quick way to find files when you need to. Another really useful command is the manual command. So if I say man locate, it gives me the entire manual on the locate command, and I can control C, or actually I can Q to get out of this. Or I can just say locate space and then do a -- help. In fact, just about all of the commands in Linux, I can do a man space and the name of the command, or I can do the command and then space -- help, and I'll get more information. Let me demonstrate that with the copy command. I can do man cp. I see the manual for the copy command, and there are lots of commands under there, and I'll quit to get out of there. Or I can say cp space -- help, and I'll get one big long help screen with all the command line options for the copy command. Very cool. Let's do a couple of advanced commands for networking. Let's say that I want to ping www.google.com. Ping is a network command that lets us see whether we've got connectivity out to the internet, for example, or to a specific server. I'm pinging Google, and that's going to keep going, so I'll hit Control-C. Anytime you want to kill a command from the command prompt, Control-C is usually the way to do it. but I can ping out to Google because this is set up public, or I could ping around to other locations. If I clear the screen and do an if config, this is my interface config. If config tells me that I am set up with this internet address, and I always have a loopback address. 127.0.0.1 is always my local host. That is my loopback or local host address. But out on the internet, it looks like I have an address like 10.0.2.15 because of the default setup in VirtualBox. So remember, on a Linux box, anytime you need to know your IP address, you can use ifconfig, interface config. On a Windows machine, that'll be ipconfig, so it's easy to get those mixed up. Just remember ifconfig for Linux and then IP for Windows. Let me clear the screen. And one last thing that's helpful to do sometimes is just list all your environment variables, env. And you can see every named constant. So if I say want to know where my home directory is or what my username is, I can echo those variables out just by using a $ next to this, the name of the variable that we see here. So let me clear the screen and echo $user. And I'm logged in as root. Where's my home directory? Echo $home. It's at /root. So if I cd, enter, I'm in my home directory, and I can check that with pwd, my present working directory. So we had a whole lot of Linux commands in there, from ls all the way through pwd. We've seen some networking commands, some file commands. It's a lot to catch all at one time, so I'll post the PDF file so that you've got a good cheat sheet to go back to. In the next lesson, we're going to see how to do the same commands in a Windows command line environment.